Yeah, it's still a very good morning, notwithstanding the petrol price hike. Wherever you are, welcome to Sunrise Daily this Monday morning. I'm Chamberlain. So,
start of a new week. Good morning and welcome. I'm Kayla Magwa.
Today is 0909. That's September 9. Good morning and welcome. I'm Ayo Makinde.
Oh.
Yep.
11:11 used to be the thing.
Well, this is where I'm taking you guys this morning. Yes. This is Makbo Hall in Ibadan. I mean, just look at that horizon, Chamberlain.
Ibadan. That's what they say, yeah.
Well, you know, Chamberlain, if you remember, this city is...
Complete with the other parts of that word.
Well, the man who sang it in a song has since died. King is soul. That's what you want to hear. Have you heard it now?
Yeah, that's it.
Well, you know, there are some people who say that this city is the city of so many firsts. Ibadan city, and just look at the horizon. Ibadan says it's set to hold a list of firsts in Nigeria's history. The first television station in Africa, the first Nigerian university, that's University of Ibadan, the first university teaching hospital, that's the UCH, the first sports stadium in Ibadan, that's Liberty House, in Africa actually, and the first city to produce a club side that won international trophy for Nigeria as the Africa Cup Winners' Cup in 1976. Shooting stars. Shooting. Yes. Up shooting. Kayla, it's up shooting, not shooting. Remove the H. Up shooting.
Okay. Do you know what, Ayo?
Yeah.
You know, I've actually been to that hall.
Oh, nice.
That Mapo hall. We went on an excursion. When we were...
the first hall you visited for an excursion?
No. But we went to this particular hall. I know the history of this hall. I know that it was prisoners who didn't pay their taxes that were part of the laborers used to build this hall. Am I correct?
Well, I'm not really sure about that one, but since you have visited, why are you still asking me questions?
You see?
Well, I just know the first.
I know it's on top of a place called Mapo Hill. We went from my school. Yeah. We went, it was my government teacher that took us, and it's a very historic hall. I think it was renovated in 2007 by Olusegun Obasanjo. And it's a colonial relic. It's one of those things. And a lot of, because of the kind of relic that it is, a lot of historical things have happened in this hall. Awolowo gave his speech in this place. Nnamdi Azikiwe gave his speech in this place. You know, so it's a very historic part of, you know, of our country, and one that isn't really talked about much. But I remember that excursion and how I kept touching the walls because they said it was the prisoners who didn't pay their taxes that were used as part of the laborers to build this hall. You know, and I remember that feeling of touching that, laborers from back in the day touched this wall. So yes, a very historic site. Good morning, Ibadan, by the way.
Wow, that's really very interesting, guys. I mean, looking at that structure alone, solid stone, that's why those pillars are there to hold that particular pillar. I understand the six are on 5,969 square meters, and took about 4 years for them to build it. At that time, I think they say it was about what? Is it 24,000?
24,000 pounds.
24,000 pounds.
Yeah, 24,000 pounds.
Wow, and that's a lot. Taking 4 years and solid concrete. So, wow, iconic. Very interesting to behold this iconic landmark. I mean,
and you know, there's one historic speech that was given there by Awolowo. Okay. I don't know how to speak Yoruba, so I got it transcribed in English.
Oh.
It was a speech where he said the lion would rather hunt alone than be the bag carrier of the tiger. I would never forget this. Never forget what I was taught from government. It was when I was studying government in secondary school that they took us to this place. And it's a very historic place.
Yeah.
Lovely to see it again.
Yeah, and also nice to also refresh our memories with iconic places like this one. And interesting to see that it also being maintained. And I mean, I've read several people who say they visited the place. They actually paid. I don't know if what you guys did.
We paid the school. Yes, as students, we paid to go on the excursions.
But individuals say they paid
to go
some years ago. Yeah, so they can haggle, and then the tour guide can take them around. Then they pay to see those places. So very interesting place. So if other areas can be this way, I think it will attract a lot of people. They will look forward to going there. I mean, look at that memory now. You can't forget that.
Yeah.
Having been there yourself as a tourist.
And you know, it's also a lesson. It's a lesson for teachers right now. We children remember, young people remember the things that you show them. So maybe as a teacher, it's a very teachable moment. If you have kids in your class, you're teaching social studies or you're teaching
what do you remember? TikTok.
Oh no. Let's try not to keep the only memory in the minds of children TikTok. Let's be able to fill their minds with some of these historic things. Very important and very teachable right there. Lovely to see it again.
Yeah.
So happy.
So well done, guys. That's very good to see. Well, Aya's going to take us through the papers now.
School fees is in the news this morning. On the front page of the Guardian newspaper is where you'll find the story. Parents groan as fares spike by over 70% amid dropout concerns. And you can please make of the illustration on the front page what you will. And other stories this morning concerns inflation one way or the other. The Daily Times has this one: planned VAT increase. Tinubu's government will completely set Nigerians on fire. That's coming from Atiku. Urges President, his advisors to redirect effort towards crafting sustainable solutions to systemic shocks afflicting the economy. Same stories on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. Increasing VAT to 10% will consume Nigerians, according to Atiku, says taxes destroying businesses, aggravating poverty. Details on page 4. Nigerian News Direct has the same story. Atiku slams FG over 10% VAT hike, fuel price surge, warns of worsening economic downturn, says policies will endanger livelihoods. Nigeria's already fragile economic stability. Reverse petrol price increase within 48 hours or face legal action. Serap tells Tinubu, save Nigerians from crushing hardship. APC chieftain begs Tinubu. Nigeria has too many ministries, needs slimming down. That's from Tafawa Balewa. The details on page 2 of the paper this morning. That same story is on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Petrol price hike. Nigerians at breaking point. NLC Atiku won. The details on page 5 of the paper today. There are other stories on the front pages this morning. Daily Trust has this rather saddening one. 48 people, 50 cows killed in Niger road accident. Residents blame speed, bad roads. Story is on page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Black Sunday, that's how the Blueprint newspaper starts the story. 51 killed in Niger, Lagos tanker inferno, 48 get mass burial. Over 50 cows perish. Bago expresses shock, directs Nsema's immediate intervention. The details you find on the inside pages of the paper this morning. A related story is this one on the front page of this Nigerian newspaper. Zamfara, Kaduna, Katsina lead in ransom payments to kidnappers. That's according to a report. SBM Intelligence says over 1 billion naira paid in 1 year, more than 7,000 abducted nationwide within same period. Flip to page 2 of this Nigerian newspaper for the details of that story. If you look at the front page of the Leadership newspaper, this is what you'll find. Poverty, ignorance, boosting organ trafficking in Nigeria. And the infographic on the front page might give you an inkling. Business Day, how Nigeria can boost revenues without raising taxes. Economists worried over nation's debt. Gates says government must justify citizens' tax. Find the details on the inside pages of the paper. Look at the Abuja Inquirer. Fuel hike. FCT residents drone. Parents mull school change for their awards. More car owners turn to Kabu Kabu. If you don't know what that means, the details are on the inside pages of the paper. New Telegraph has this one. Stifling affects others. Anxiety heightens for BP diabetes patients as drug prices rise 1,000%. Wow. Erectile dysfunction. Patients, pharmacists, chemists, others lament. FG's EO not working in drugs prices reduction. Find the meaning and the details of that story on page 4 of the paper this morning. Daily Independent, FBN Holdings dispute may scuttle First Bank's recapitalization plan. And look at the writer. We're exploring peace options, shareholder groups assure. The details you'll find on the inside pages of the paper. And these are the papers we have for you this morning.
Grappling with the petrol price hike. That's what a lot of Nigerians are doing right now. Well, this morning we've got Mr. Chuks Akamadu here with us. He is the president, Center for Ethical Rebirth Among Nigerian Youths. Irene, good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Well, last week, nightmarish, literally, with the queues all over the place. Well, not that it's not the same now in terms of what people have to deal with. Still trying to take that in for a lot of people, how they need to adjust to that pump price. But of course, there's usually several explanations on the part of government and then several authorities. But the people, I'm not sure if or how those words have settled the people, because for them, they look at the price, the pump, whatever anybody says, affects, they're just keeping their focus on that pump price. So for you, take us through your own impressions as to how all of this is playing out from what you've seen.
Firstly, my heart goes out to the people of Nigeria. Of course, that includes my humble self, because we've been traumatized for too long a time. We've been shortchanged over time. The economic hardship that we face today is largely man-made on account of bad governance we've had over the years. That said, I also would want to note that, like we say in our local parlance, a hungry man is an angry man. So that explains in large parts why all the explaining that the government has been doing hasn't been sitting well with the people, because they are hungry in the first instance. And being hungry, they are not in the right frame of mind to even entertain any explaining that the government is willing to offer. That said, too, but again, we must be realistic at this point. Nigeria has come to a moment where we have to tell ourselves the truth. It is populist and it is simplistic, in my view, for some of us to be shouting, "Oh, reverse the pump price of fuel, reverse the pump price of fuel." My understanding is that the cost price of a liter of refined PMS is in the region of 830 naira. If it is in the region of 830 naira, that is before it's been trucked to the filling stations. I don't see how that makes logical sense for any business person to sell at 600. Someone must be at the brunt somehow. But again,
someone being Nigerians?
Well, someone must be at the brunt. If it is government, if you say, okay, government should continue to pay the subsidy, we the people, also be at the brunt, directly or indirectly. So it's not even a matter of saying government should find a way of returning it to 600. If they return it to 600, the people of Nigeria will still suffer. The people of Nigeria will still pay one way or another.
Let's try and understand that dynamic there. I don't want us to move from that topic. Because for many Nigerians, subsidy is still being paid. If you look at the landing cost and what it was that was coming out at the petrol stations, we knew some money is going somewhere. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up, But then, of course, we keep hearing that subsidy has been removed. Now, walk us through that. With everything that's going on right now, for many Nigerians, if you talk to them on the street, they'll tell you, I don't even care about the corrupt subsidy regime anymore. Just bring back the subsidy. I want to go back to be able to live my life and be able to buy food and be able to live properly. Talk us through that dynamic.
But of course, I understand the pain of the average Nigerian, because I happen to be one of them. But the truth of the matter is this. We must tell ourselves the truth at this point as a people. Payment of subsidy will not take us to where we want to. be as a people. Don't forget, the whole essence of deregulating the downstream sector is for us to achieve affordability and availability. Now, if we say, okay, federal government should return to 600 naira per liter, and then we have affordability, how about the availability part of it? Have you forgotten that even when it was 600 naira some days back, you could say there were long queues. People were buying black market at 1,100, 1,100, 1,200. We need to strike a balance. We need to really look ourselves in the face and tell ourselves the truth. It's either we take this hard decision at this moment and overcome all of these problems, problems, or we remain where we are. But again,
so all of these challenges.
Again, federal government, of course, has a whole lot to do in terms of trust deficit that we suffer in this country. The people don't believe in federal government. When federal government speaks, they don't. Nigerians, because of our years of being taken for granted and all of that, Nigerians don't take federal government seriously. There needs to be some exhaustive forensic audit of what's happening in NNPCL, for instance. We need satisfactory explanation of what is happening in the Niger Delta region. Why are they stealing our oil? Who are these people stealing our oil?
So here's the thing.
Are we meeting our OPEC quota? If the answer is no, why?
It is in this lifetime for a lot of people when late President Yaradua reduced the pump price upon assumption of office. And that stayed for, I think, 3 years until, unfortunately, he died. So all of those circumstances were still there at the time. So if he was able to do that, isn't it understandable why several Nigerians think, look, it is the ill-advised policies of government that put us where we are today?
Well, I think if you compare Yaradua's time to this present time, it wouldn't be fair at all. Why? Because things have since gone south for Nigeria. Nigeria's economy...
Things have always gone south. From the get-go. The exchange of the dollar.
What I'm saying...
From the get-go to now.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Always gone up. We had fuel queues.
It's always
long before Yaradua came into power.
Yes.
So the reality that we have on ground right now, yes, bad as it is, you know, and I agree, yes, we may not be able to really compare our spending power now to how it was then, but the truth is, Nigerians at this point in time need some kind of solution. We're hearing from all kinds of people. We're hearing from economists, we're hearing from experts in the field saying, look, good as these policies may be, they might not work, considering the indices on ground. If you have poor transportation systems in place, if you remove the subsidy on petrol, you're basically punishing your people because that cost will go to them and cost of transportation will rise. And when that happens, everything else will happen. There's no kind of palliative you're going to give that will make the people better. So what should be done in your view? What
I think is that the federal government should be a lot more transparent in its dealings with the people of Nigeria because they really need the trust of the people. They need the confidence of the people before they can really flourish with their policies. Because if there is no public buy-in, there will always be a problem. Now, what I think is that federal government should be a lot more consultative. They should lay the cards bare. Critical stakeholders will have to make input. They don't have to dump policies on us. Before they decide on things like this, like I said, we need labor leaders, we need economists. And I also think, given where we find ourselves as a people at the moment, federal government should begin to think of throwing its doors open so that it can begin to harness the abundant potentials of people, people with the requisite expertise who are not necessarily members of the ruling party, so that they can also make input at the moment. Because it's obvious that where we find ourselves economically is really taking a toll on the average Nigerian, and we need all hands to be on deck. Please, let me also note that at this point, we really need to wear our badges of statesmanship. That's what I think.
How do you mean?
Oh, well, where we find ourselves is such that we shouldn't be playing too much of politics with the present situation we find ourselves in. Because we are talking about the average Nigerian who is helpless and helpless.
Yeah, what's politics exactly?
Oh, no, of course you would understand that. Of course, no matter how you look at it, There are still people who are not friends of the government, who doesn't like the face of the present government, who would want to take advantage of all of this situation. I am saying that rather than mounting unnecessary or avoidable opposition on the government, the right thing should be every Nigerian to now see that there is a need for us to save the ship of state from.
The thing about that part is this. Yes. When you say people playing politics, look, I think it's a Yoruba proverb that says, the person that they want to burn, you don't go pour petrol on your body. So the thing now is, if government says people are playing politics, have you put any good policies in place there to counter them? Your policies will speak for the people.
That can be
so let them play politics they want. They play your own with your policies. Let it impact directly with the people. So the thing about that is why I say, look, people are stuck on saying they will compare. Because it's about, it's the same government, it's the same Nigeria that when the late President Yadda was there, he took policies that directly impacted the lives of the people across board. So on that principle, on that basis, that's why people say, what policies have you put in place to perhaps have the same, if not a better effect on the people? They keep talking about hard decisions. Which one have they sacrificed?
Of course,
the government themselves. What have they done?
Of course, I understand, and of course, I have admitted here that the government has to do a lot more. Because what the government has done so far hasn't yielded the result that we all desire. And because it hasn't yielded the result that we all desire, that's why I'm calling for a more expanded economic team that would include human resources that could bring fresh ideas, since these ones are not giving us what we need or what we desire as a people. So government has to redouble its effort, but the people also would, I think, will have to show understanding, because this is a very difficult phase that we must find a way of navigating.
What understanding do you want the people to show?
I have said this before, that if the cost price of 1 liter of fuel is 830, in the region of 830 naira, I don't see how any marketer will profitably engage in marketing refined petroleum products when the people would expect him or her to sell at 600. And I'm also saying that if you say, okay, federal government pay the 600, and I don't have a problem with that, because, like I said, it sounds very, very populist, because people would like to hear that kind of a thing. But realistically speaking, affordability, yes, on the one hand, would you have achieved availability? If you have to queue again after federal government has revised it into 600 naira, so okay, they are doing this, but you don't find the refined products available. You don't find them in the filling station. Of what use is that again?
Part of why people refuse to say no, they will not show any understanding, is because number one, these governments, they were all elected to make life better for the people, and they promised them heaven and earth, saying, yes, we will do it. So they cannot show any understanding until they do what they have promised the people. They were not elected to make life unbearable for the people. There's a raft of policies that have been ill-advised. So why should the people accept that?
I am on the side of people, like I said, because I am a co-casualty in this whole scenario. But I am saying that we also have to be reasonable about this. It's just like, okay, I will give you an instance. The labor leaders woke up one day and they said, okay, let us try and see how. Of course, there is need for us to increase the minimum wage of our workers. 70,000 naira, if you ask me, does not mean much, given the value of the naira as we speak today. But yes, that has been achieved. But how many states, as we speak now, how many states can pay the 70,000 naira? It's very easy to say, okay, agitate for all of this, but we need to be realistic, especially as regards implementation.
Speaking about being realistic, when government announced that subsidy was gone upon assumption of office, this government, can you tell us, do you know what they've done with the money, at least the subsidy removal, with the funds that they got from that? Any idea what they've done with it?
Well, I started by saying that if you work yourself into the oil industry, that the operations, they are very opaque. It's been very, very opaque for the people of Nigeria. They need to do a whole lot of surgery in the oil industry so that people can see through what is happening. Because we don't even know what is happening in the
So how will the people show understanding if they don't understand if government has not been transparent to the people? How do they show understanding?
My point is this: you can't clap with one hand. If you're talking about government, you're talking about a contract between the people and the leaders. If you're talking about the people and the leaders, then you must jam these two hands to produce applause. Yes, government has to do a lot more. Like I said, we need a whole lot of transparency in the oil industry so that people can really see what is happening. At the moment, we don't have it. That's why I called for very extensive audit of the oil sector, because I don't understand why NNPC will be telling me that over years now it's been running at a loss. Yes, that's on the side of the government.
Yeah, but
on the side
it is not the NNPC that will utilize the funds that they've saved from subsidy. It is the executive arm of government. They are the ones that should be explaining to the people, you are now a subsidy remover. Where is the money? What have you been doing with the money?
Well, I don't know.
They should be the ones telling us.
I don't know how you can successfully separate the executive arm of government and that of the NNPC.
It's very simple. We didn't elect an NPC.
I
we elected the president.
I get where you're coming from, Mr. Akamadu. You're trying to make it look like, okay, well, people have their own role to play. I get that.
Oh, yes.
Listen, though. Here's what the issue is.
And they also have their rights, which they're exercising.
There's a contract. There's a contract we, the people, have with the government. And it doesn't seem like the government is keeping to their side of that contract. Apart from all of these opacity that you talked about, there's also the fact that there's lavish spending, incredible lavish spending on the part of government that the people just do not. It's mind-boggling to think about how much money has been spent on things. And we're wondering, how did any of this, what has this man's house got to do with national development? I mean, I'm referring to the vice president's house, the new house, and then renovating this one, then buying this, and then the lavish lifestyle. You cannot tell the Nigerian people to continue to understand at a time when they are looking at you spending lavishly and there's no transparency. But that aside, now that we are here...
It's an important point you've just
Yes,
made.
I understand.
Like
you can speak on that when you start talking, but with that on one side, now let's look at where we are now. What should be happening right now? Because asking for transparency in NNPC and asking for explanations and whatnot, these things take time. What can be done right now for the Nigerian to feel like my country is not trying to kill me?
Well, I think, like I already had mentioned the issue of trust deficit, meaning that government has to do more. I also agree with you that government has not shown enough sensitivity. Put bluntly, government hasn't shown basic sensitivity to the people, which we've just buttressed now with their lavish spending and all of that. That's an area that government should really, really advert its mind to and make sure that it wins the trust of the people, because you can't be spending the way you're spending. And you can't be spending the way you're spending and then you expect the people to understand you. Of course, I know the bulk of this whole thing drops on the laps of the government, no doubt. But I'm saying for lasting solution, there has to be a conversation. There has to be a meeting point first between the people and the government. The government will have to, the people will have to do their wish list and say, this government, you must strike this out, government, you must do this and all that. When you do this and do that, they will then be willing. There would be a basis for all of us to now say, okay, we understand where you're going to.
We were listening to the president when he was talking to the Chinese community, just a few days ago. And one of the things that he said was, these are the hard decisions I was talking about. We'll get to the promised land. We'll reach El Dorado soon.
When? Did he say when?
No, he didn't say when. But he said, well, we are on the way to El Dorado.
We have to be alive.
So he said, these are the hard decisions. And the president famously has been quoted by many people as the man who took the decisions that many governments were afraid to take. They said, especially the Buhari administration,
which
they didn't want removal of fuel subsidy.
Did he remove subsidy?
No,
he didn't remove subsidy.
Understand what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
He announced that it has happened, right? He said it is not budgeted for.
Yes, he didn't.
We get that. We get that argument
for it.
Yes, we get that.
But it was supposed to be till May.
You understand?
June. Sorry,
but here's the thing.
He stopped it.
He decided to do other things. That's not the only policy. There were other things that happened afterwards. Floating the currency. So he said these are the hard decisions that we have to make right now. And the thing is, as a people, we're wondering, okay, so when are the benefits going to come out? Is it going to come out in 4 years? Is it 8 years? What happens to me in the meantime? That's where the questions are. That's why that badge of statesmanship is difficult for us to carry right now.
I understand. That was why I started by saying a hungry man is an angry man. Of course, I understand the mood of the people. And they have every reason to be in that particular mood. But if we go beyond emotions, if we go beyond sentiment, then we must get to a point where we find a common ground. Like I said, where the people will place demands on the government because the people are the employers of those who are in the hands of authority as we speak now. They place demands on the government. Government, on its part, will have to pledge to honor all its commitment on that. Then the people, of course, will have to also understand that some of these things can't be automatic. I've just given an instance, like the minimum wage thing that we celebrated 70,000 naira. Who is paying? How many states are paying 70,000 naira minimum wage as we speak now?
Let's not forget.
So whilst we go for the ideal,
in fairness to the people, yes. I don't think they say they want automatic solution, because just as a lot of people have also said, of course, people wanted the corruption in the subsidy regime to be gone. I don't think anybody opposed that. But what they're talking about is the rafts of those policies. And besides, it's not, I don't think it's about hard decisions. It has been about the right decisions being taken. If you have a raft of those policies and decisions, and then look at what we're going through now, and then if you're a project manager, when you do your analysis, you have a timeline as to what you're doing, when the effects are going to come in. If it's a business, when you will break even. But in this case, do you have any idea? Or did they tell us when we're beginning to feel the impact? Does anybody know? It can't be indefinite.
If you ask me, what's really standing like a stumbling block in this whole scenario is the fact that the government disposition isn't helping matters. Government appears to be talking more than it's doing because the people are also watching. And the disposition of government does not encourage the people to give the government the buy-in that it requires. That's why I'm talking about the people being aware of the fact that these things might not happen overnight. That does not relieve government of its sacred obligation to meet the needs of the people. But the people shouldn't just be that wishful about all of these things. These things will have to go through a process, and if it goes through a process, I also agree with you, there should be a timeline. It shouldn't be left open-ended. Government cannot say, "Oh, things will get better. Things will get better." We have to choose a date or a period when we will now look forward to and say, when we get to this point, we will now begin to move from relief to permanent cure, because we cannot possibly remain where we are at the moment.
Ochusa Kamadu is the president of the Center for Ethical Rebirth Among Nigerian Youth. Sarani, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you so very much for having me.
All right, we're going to go over now to Lagos.
Well, thank you, Chamberlain and Kayla. Well, the conversation you are having is about hardship on the people, and everyone is just looking for hope, opportunity to make it better. We are running democracy. We are running party politics in the country, and that's one of the ways in which people believe that change can come to people. So when we continue to hear stuff as petrol price hike, we are looking for options. So what options are there? Well, in the last election, we know that 3 main political parties, maybe 4, played in that general elections, the presidential election in particular. One of them is the Labour Party, and we are not unaware of all kinds of information coming from the Labour Party or coming out about the Labour Party and how to help them to stand as they should. This morning, Unisa Tanko joins us. Dr. Unisa Tanko is here with us in the studio. He's interim national coordinator, Obedience Movement Nationwide. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. Good morning, Nigeria.
Well, for now, the platform of the Obedient Movement is the Labour Party. And all of the things happening, the denials, all kinds of divisions that are happening, and all kinds of interventions don't seem to be working. Can you give us a general background of what is happening and how the Obedient Movement is seeing it?
Okay. Interestingly, before the 2023 general election, a lot of Nigerians formed up different groups because they were disenchanted, they were angry about the way governance was done during the General Muhammadu Buhari's era. And so they were looking for exit point of building an egalitarian society. The only person that resonated with their aspiration in terms of speaking and connecting with ideological belief was Peter Obi. And at that time, people like us under the National Consultative Front, led by Professor Pat Utomi, Wale Okuni, a lot of people that I wouldn't want to mention their names, form up this particular National Consultative Front. The National Consultative Front was looking for an opportunity of how to build a very strong force called the Third Force. And the Third Force was looking for a political party that can midwife this particular movement. Eventually, we got close, but timing caught up with us. While we are doing ours, a lot of unsung heroes were doing theirs. So then it now came to a very crescendo where people now said, let's form a new party. The new party was not visible because of timing. So eventually, the Labour Party and Professor Pat Utomi and the Labour Party leaders agreed. This was mediated by Komefemi Falana. And then eventually, we got the Labour Party. That was when His Excellency Peter Obi joined the Labour Party. I was part of the committee, the electoral committee, that was organized to bring in the election that brought in His Excellency Peter Obi, where Professor Pat Utomi actually stepped down for him. So you see, it was a grand swell building. Then gradually, the messages of His Excellency Peter Obi connected very well with the Nigerian youth.
But it doesn't seem to have connected very well with the Labour Party itself.
No, that's where I'm heading to. Because at that time, the Labour Party platform was the very formidable, available political platform that we were able to use. So it connected. It connected because there was belief in each other that we must work together to wrestle the country. So nobody will say it didn't resonate, because why I tell you that it connected is because the labor movement, the Nigerian Labour Congress, and the party were able to come together and work as a team, because there was a problem even before the time. So, but you see, the movement now takes a life of its own, individually, because of the word good governance. The obedient movement is just about good governance, citizen engagement, building a synergy to have an egalitarian society, to have a country that is united and where fairness and equity and justice take supreme, to build a country where internationally you will be respected in the Committee of Nations, to make sure that leadership reigns supreme, good quality leadership reigns supreme. That is the quantum and the process of what really brought in the obedient movement. But as we go on, it becomes obvious that we cannot continue to move in that particular headless leadership. It gives room for purification of individuals. So His Excellency said, look, this is the time now to build this particular movement into a structural, formal level that will all move together and build a house, just like we see the PDM of Yomori Musa Yar'Adua and the rest of them. Majority of us, if you believe in good governance in Nigeria, trying to build an egalitarian society, automatically you are an obedient. So
you don't need a card carry.
That is the next step, because that is the next step. We are now formalizing it into a very well structured movement.
Let's quickly just wrap up. We'll come back to the obedient. But, there is still a lot of discontent about the stakeholders meeting of the Labour Party, which was convened by Governor Oti of Abia State, and of course, Principal Peter Obi, to resolve the crisis in the party. Now, there's still that question about the legality of that intervention, particularly whether it lines up or not with the party's constitution.
Well, you see, in that regard, all of this can be easily cleared with INEC. My own position as I sit before you is now building a strong, united, obedient movement.
I get that. I am coming there.
Yes,
we're coming there.
Yes.
The reason I'm asking is for now.
Yes.
Because without the obedient movement having a political platform, unless it evolves into a political party on its own, then the challenge of a platform of expression, of significance, of relevance, for now, the one that the obedient movement has is the Labour Party. So and generally from all that many people have been hearing, the obedient party and the Labour Party for now are not divorced. They are like Siamese twins. They are literally conjoined where it matters. So how is the obedient movement interfacing in this matter to ensure that, you know, at least they still have a platform of expression for now?
What we are doing is to build structural building along the line to the polling unit, which of course we understand that was what we were accused of during the 2023 general election, that we do not have physical structure. We do not have structures at the ward level and all. So we take it up upon ourselves as a case in study that we want to build that structure.
Are you building it with Labour Party structures?
You know, the obedient movement, most of them are members of the Labour Party. Okay. But we have to really put them on ground and know that this is our own. So this is our building. This is our structure.
How are those members of the Labour Party who are part of the obedient movement seeing this whole fracas in the Labour Party?
Of course, if a lot of people were happy about the situation, we wouldn't have been jostling for issues and going back and forth. And that is why we are trying to make sure that the obedient movement take precedence. Because, you know, the obedient movement is wide. It's beyond the Labour Party itself. There are people who are not Labour Party members, but they are obedient in belief and all. So it is now this particular structure building that will put them into the right place and say, hey, let's look at how we can sacrifice to build a strong nation. Let's see how we can be represented at each of the polling units. Let's see how we can shape the narrative of good governance. How do we engage and changing the beliefs of whether it is a north or a south, as long as supreme position is of capacity, competencies, and then good governance that can help in the changing of the narrative to bring in the best out of us to lead us. These are the basic things.
Do you see, what's your take on the comment of the chieftain of your party, Mr. Nwabueze Onwuneme, who says that the intervention of Mr. Peter Obi and Governor Oti has saved the Labour Party from wanton destruction? How did that happen in the first place?
Well, like you know, in every party politics, you expect leaders to come into a situation where it is going bad. Some even said that His Excellency was not taking decisions. Those are the people who are saying so. But now when they took their decision as leaders, in order, leaders are not interested in causing any division among their ranks of their people, because everybody that you see is very, very important. Even a madman on the street, when somebody check me and say, how would I say a madman is important? In politics, he is important. It's just that how you use him. You use him for violent purposes or you use him for, you know, uniting purposes. Then you will get the best out of him. So in this case, leaders must come in to take over a situation and deal with it with good wisdom that can unite everybody together. So that is the take as regard to that. But for us, it's for us.
But you haven't still spoken to the legality of that intervention.
That is domiciled with INEC. I'm not INEC.
No, I'm talking about that intervention playing a role of uniting the party and fostering peace.
Yes, of course, because everybody was touched. Everybody was invited for that discussion. So it is left for INEC to look at the legality and make pronouncements. So I have nothing to do with that at the moment now, because they are the electoral umpire. They know what the law says. It's better for them to make their pronouncements. So we'll leave that one as that.
Okay, now to the issues that the obedient movement and all of that.
Yeah.
What are your expectations from this intervention?
Well, my expectation is for us to have a united house that can give us a platform. We in the obedient movement are trying so hard to ensure that everybody understands that we need to work together as a team. And that means that we have to have a structural building of how that can happen. Now, I give you an example. You want to go to Sokoto, you have a lot of obedience. You want to go to Anambra, you have a lot of obedience. You want to go to Maiduguri, there are a lot of them. But we have not been able to put them together to say this is how we are as one house. That is our set target. Within the next few months, there will be announcement for registration. formal registration. We want to identify you where you are, what you do, so that at the end of it all, we are very much aware there are people who have been set up to infiltrate the ranks. In fact, when you make a statement, somebody will come and say, no. As of yesterday or day before yesterday, there was already a news going around that His Excellency was arrested in his house with his family and his wife. At the time this particular discussion was going on, we were in Kigali. We were right in Kigali addressing, being in a conference. So these are things that we want to eliminate. If we want to respond, we want to have people who have the capacity to respond in a very formal way.
And that is for the obedience movement?
Yes.
Exclusively for the obedient movement?
Yes, because what we want to have is building a bond.
Exclusive of the Labour Party?
Yes.
Okay. Now, to what can you compare the obedient movement? There are those who would say the obedient movement is, ebbing towards the aping the kind of movement that the Kwankwasia movement is. Is that what's
beyond that? Beyond that, because the Kwankwasia movement was trying to spread out, but the level of our own acceptability is quite large. And so we are not giving ourselves or kind of going ourselves along a particular interest. It's about general interest. What has to do with good governance. Like I told you, it's all brought up because of the reason and demand for a good governance.
Okay. Now, part of the comment that the, Rabbi Senator Kwankwaso had been quoted as saying is that, rightly or wrongly quoted, as saying that the Kwankwasia movement is a cult of sorts. Is that what the obedient movement is also?
Obviously no, because it's general. That's why I say it's quite different. Because ours is about demand for good governance that affect a Sokoto man, good governance that affect a Lagosian, good governance that affect a Kano man, good governance that affect probably somebody from Nasarawa. We are talking about how do we get good water. We're talking about health. We're talking about education. We're talking about security for the people. These are basic needs.
Is the obedient movement looking at the possibility or necessity of forming a political party of its own?
At the moment, our target is first of all to get ourselves united and documented. Because we don't want purification, we want to know our numbers.
And eventually?
Well, eventually that will be decided. But for now, the most thing is first, we can't jump the gun, but let us move and build ourselves so that nobody will accuse us of not being together and being formidable.
Is there a remote possibility of the obedient movement evolving into a political party?
Well, like I said, I don't want to speculate on that particular because most of us are Labour Party members. And so, but we understand the fact that we needed to have a database of who we are and what we represent so that the narrative will be properly being put into general public. Because there are people who call us all kinds of names.
It goes back to what I asked about the Labour Party, which you really do not want to speak to. Because if most of you are members of the Labour Party,
yes,
and it so happens that even all of this intervention doesn't pan out the way the obedient movement wants it to pan out with the Labour Party, then what happens?
Look, let me give you an example. In politics, you need to have your base. You need to know those who believe in you, who believe in your ideology so that they can propel it and champion it. If you don't have them, you are just standing alone, no matter how the people love you, because you are not organized. So, in a case where you are building a political structure, you must be able to know X number of people in every ward who believe in you. If, for example, you build a structure and say that you have 5,000 people in each of the ward of 176,000 polling units, you will be able to know statutorily that this number will vote for you. And anywhere there's a meeting or any political discussion, those people from the ward will be able to defend your ideology.
So you are this is about the obedient movement.
That's right.
Not the Labour Party.
At the moment, no.
Okay. Now, if the obedient movement is unable to fortify the Labour Party, why should anyone believe that the obedient movement can build itself?
No. You see, at the moment now, if that was what we are accused of, and so now we have come out and say we are formidable. This is our numbers. And within the Labour Party, we know ourselves. If we want to change a narrative that is not going well for the obedient movement, we have our people to speak to this particular issue, just like how it happens at the National Assembly. You must be able to defend that in what you believe in. His Excellency Peter Obi believes that Nigeria can be better. And you cannot be in a position of power to say you are not providing the people with water, you are not providing them with good network of roads, you are not providing them with good health, you are not providing them with employment opportunity. These are the beliefs that we have. So if we meet at a discussion where somebody within the party or somewhere is saying that, no, I don't believe that we should take care of building roads or paying for or taking care of education, that goes contrary to my own belief.
No.
So, but if you are not there, they will only push the narrative that they believe in. So, in a way, it is your strength. It is what that strengthens the constitution and the manifesto of the party or wherever grouping that you belong to. But if you don't have them, then you have nobody to speak for you.
I do get that. But the question that I'm asking is, I mean, there have been interventions to fortify the Labour Party that has not worked. And there has been court cases, there have been court cases that, you know, went neither here nor there until we got to this point that we're in now. And then this intervention. Now, this is also not the first time Mr. Peter Obi has attempted to intervene in the political crisis within the party. And the NLC has also stepped in from time to time. Should it happen that this intervention does not give the desired result for the obedient movement, what happens? Will the obedient movement move out of the Labour Party? Will you be setting up your own political party? That's the question I'm asking.
One of the major problems that happened was that ab initio, had it been that majority of the NLC and the obedient movement populate with documented fact, populate all the wards in the wherever political party they believe in. Politics is about democratic interests. It is the people that will champion a cause and change the narrative and speak to issues. But when they are not organized and they are not there, there won't be any sort of that discussion. So in a way, what we are trying to do, having understood this particular dynamics, we are now going back to say, let's form ourselves into this particular well-structured organization. That way, nobody will loud himself over us and change the narrative and not follow the constitution that binds all of us together. So in that case, if we eventually have it, it will be easy for the movement to be able to champion a cause even in any other organization. So for us now, if that particular building block is not established, there will be problems. So we are building that particular structural documented. And once you're done, we know how to champion our messages across the line. Okay.
Will the obedient movement that you're talking about, who will be carry members, will they also be fee-paying members?
Of course, normally, many of them contributed to the development of the obedience. Sure, you know that. Majority of them unsung, people who would not even know. And with this opportunity, I want to even thank every one of them.
So will they be fee-paying members once they get a membership?
Of course, when we get to that particular level, we must have a source of finance.
Okay.
We must agree on that.
All right. I'm sure that this conversation has only just started.
Oh, yes, it has just started.
Thank you so much for coming this morning. Dr. Eunice Atanko is the Interim National Coordinator, Obedient Movement Worldwide. Thank you.
Thank you, and God bless Nigeria.
All right. John Mekwa is taking us through Business Morning on Sunrise Daily, talking, among other things, about boosting non-oil export. Ini.
Thank you so much, Ayo. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. Yes, we'll do business for just about 30 minutes. And then, of course, top on the list is, while we're looking for how to boost non-oil exports, we still have to deal with the issues around oil, yes? But first of all, let's start from the global space and tell you that oil prices jumped by $1 in early trade on Monday as potential hurricane system, unfortunately, is approaching the United States Gulf Coast and as markets recover from a sell-off following weaker than expected U.S. jobs data that was released on Friday. West Texas Intermediate crude, let's look at the numbers right there. It's up, and really up almost 1.5%. This morning. So we see Brent $72.05, not up to the $80, which we know as a normal point for it, but it's gained 1.39% to trade at $72.05. WTI of the United States, that's where the hurricane is threatening, $68.67 a barrel after it went up also 1.48%. The weather system in southwestern Gulf of Mexico is forecast to become a hurricane before it reaches northwestern United States Gulf Coast. This is according to the National Hurricane Center. And the U.S. Gulf Coast accounts for some 60% of U.S. refining capacity. So that's threatened at this time. A highly anticipated U.S. government jobs report showed non-farm payrolls. That was later on Friday after we had were done with the program. Increased less than market watchers had expected in August. It went up by 142,000, and July figure was down, reversed to an increase of 89,000, which was the smallest gain since an outright decline in December 2020. We come back home now and look at the Naira. We see an inverse relationship between NAFEM and NAFEX on Friday at the close of trade. A good one for NAFEM because it went up 2.81%. So while the market opened at 1,639 Naira 41 kobo, it closed at 1,593 Naira 32 kobo. However, it was a drop for NAFEX, but be careful about getting excited with this because our next story will tell you that CBN did intervene, and this time they didn't intervene through the banks, the deposit banks. They went to the BDC. So on Friday, the Central Bank of Nigeria approved the sale of $20,000 to each eligible bureau de change operators at the rate of 1,580 Naira. So don't be surprised you see Naira trading above that. 1,580 Naira is what the BDCs bought it. So they will, of course, have to make some profit. But they have been told in a statement that was signed by the Acting Director of Trade and Exchange Department, Dr. Kanya, that they are only allowed to sell to end users at a margin not more than 1% above what they purchase from the CBN. And eligible BDCs have been directed to make Naira payment to CBN deposit account numbers and submit proof of payment to appropriate branches in Abuja, Oka, in Anambra State, Kano, and Lagos. So I guess by this week, we should expect that there'll be kind of stability in the Naira with this inflow expected from the CBN. I mean, the BDCs are supposed to have started applying the process by Friday. Before the end of this week, hopefully that will be concluded, and that should reflect in the value of the Naira, even if it's temporal. Now, the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale, has debunked reports during the rounds that the rate for value-added tax, that's VAT, has been upwardly adjusted to 10% from 7.5%. The minister shared this in a statement he signed, affirms that the current VAT rate is 7.5%, and this is what the government is charging on spectrum of goods and services to which tax is applicable. Therefore, neither the federal nor any of its agencies will act contrary to what our laws stipulate. It says that the tax system stands on a tripod, namely tax policy, tax laws, and tax administration. All the three must combine well to give a sound system that gives vitality to the fiscal position of the government. And I'm sure this comes on the back of, the reforms proposed by the Tao Oyedele committee, but there are still processes to go through. We had Mr. Oyedele on our program some time ago, and I did tell us to expect it to go through the legal and, through the law, and all the Senate, the lawmakers will have an input into that, and then we should expect that by next year, that's when we could see implementation. And of course, there'll be more enlightenment on this. That's why Mr. Waledu is coming to make this clarification that VAT is still at 7.5% and not 10%. Now, Nigeria's oldest financial institution, FBN Holdings, says it has divested 100% stake upon its wholly owned subsidiary, FBN Quest Merchant Bank, to EverQuest Acquisition LLP. This follows a share sale and purchase agreement. In a statement released on the Nigerian Exchanges Limited website, the Financial Services Group explained that the move, which came after a competitive bidding process is in line with its strategy to optimize a portfolio. FBN Holdings mentioned that the sale agreement was made after EverQuest Acquisition LLP, which comprises Custodian Investment PLC, Eon Investments and Evercorp Industries were selected as preferred bidders. However, the listed group adds that the completion of the sale is subject to approvals from relevant regulatory authorities. The Senior Special Assistant to the President on Job Creation in the Office of the Vice President, Mr. Temitola Johnson, says that the federal government is working on some initiatives small and medium-scale enterprises in the country. Mr. Johnson told Channels Television exclusively that these are taking time because they have to be done properly. He also put out a word of advice to other Nigerians who've been given the privilege to lead.
I am aware and involved in certain discussions, and I'm aware and involved in certain activities, whose gestation period will happen very soon. Things will be better, especially within the MSME ecosystem. Once you conceptualize something, it takes a bit of time for the results to be seen. You understand? It might look like we are taking a lot of time, but it is better we get these things done properly. You don't want to open the eyes of somebody that is blind, then all of a sudden you close it back. You are looking for trouble. So we have to get these things done properly. But I understand that timing is also a factor. And as for those that are leading, people like us that are leading, people like us that occupy this privileged position called by Mr. President to help him actualize some of his visions, we should actually do so. Do so in the sense that when you find yourself in a privileged position as this, you must understand that any other person could be occupying that position. You cannot remove politicking from government and governance, but it is striking that balance that is very key, basically. So if you do your politicking and you do not allow your politicking overtake the assignment you are given, then you'll be on your way to achieving success.
You can watch the full interview, Newsnight. That'll be at 9 p.m. today on all Channels television platforms there with Mr. Temitola Johnson. Now, the hottest news in Nigeria now is still the new petrol price, which everyone is feeling and talking about the impact and trying to understand. And because we did have that announcement that 48 hours after the resumption of production or the initiation or commencement of petrol production by Dangote refineries, that we would have it in circulation. However, 48 hours since we did not have it, we did get a statement from Dangote refineries to tell us that NNPCL hasn't come for the loading of petrol. So that's why. But apart from that, we do have the new price going on. And we're asking questions. Some people have asked that since there's been an announcement or the promise that there'll be petrol sold in Naira to local refiners, not just to Dangote, but you have the modular refineries also, refiners also. Would that reduce the price of petrol? Let's look at the economics of this with an economist, Dr. Muda Yusuf, the Chief Executive Officer, Center for Promotion of Private Enterprises. Dr. Yusuf, good morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning to you, Ine.
So let's start from, the expectation now. People are asking what's really going on. We have a new prices, I think I should put it that way, of petrol at the pump. Can that assure us of petrol sufficiency? Can we say we will have energy security with this? Or is this just reaction to the drop in the value of the Naira?
Well, It has been a very challenging and sometimes confusing situation. Because at the time that the Dangote refinery made the announcement of commencement of production, there was a strange coincidence that it was also at that time that NNPC was announcing a new price. I think that coincidence can be very misleading because there is no connection between the two. Because the impression seems to have been created that it was because Dangote was coming with his PMS, that is why prices went up. I think that was misleading. But coming to your question, we had two major issues in the last 2 weeks, which actually exacerbated the situation. We had the challenge of scarcity, then we had the challenge of the increase in price. That increase in price for me was a bit on the high side. We are talking about close to 40%, given the social economic condition in the country today. And let me say that the way things are now, it is extremely difficult for the government to walk away completely from providing subsidy. It's extremely difficult. Because in whatever policy we conceptualize or we want to promote, the social content of policy is extremely very important. Because the social cost of reform so far has been far, far beyond what many of us expected. So there has to be a moderation both in the pace of the reform and also the kind of pace it's imposing on the citizens. No two economies are the same. In many of the economies where we have full deregulated system, the energy market, those economies have very robust safety net, social safety net. We don't have that kind of thing here. So we need to follow this process gradually. Secondly, in order to ease the burden of the fiscal burden on governments of all these transactions, we need to localize those transactions. We need to localize this fuel importation, fuel something. We need to localize these transactions. Luckily, we now have the Dangote refinery. It's a great opportunity for us to localize all transactions relating to fuel supply. That will increase, the transparency of the process. It will improve the integrity of the process. It will help us to, strengthen our reserves. It will help to also moderate the pressure on the exchange rate.
But Dr. Yusuf,
in addition to the issues of backward integration by industries.
Dr. Yusuf, we
are talking about petrochemical industries and so on.
Dr. Yusuf,
a lot of things are being imported that are, products of refineries. So there's a whole lot of things to benefit. But unfortunately,
can you hear me? So, you're talking about localizing, the process of this. Can we really do that? We can applaud the statement that crude should be sold in Naira. Do we even have the crude? Because we do know that Dangote itself is still importing WTI from the United States. And we even had a statement from the NMDPRA, or is it the NUPRC, that they are not able to meet up with domestic obligation because of other obligations that have been made even before now.
Now, whatever obligation they can meet, they should put that on the table. The principle must be agreed. There has to be a political commitment to it. Because this is a nationalistic issue. This is about economic nationalism. Because I'm worried that the NNPC is not showing enough excitement about this Dangote refinery. And it's very strange. Like many other Nigerians, we expect the NNPC to be a lot more enthusiastic. But from the body language, from the pronouncements, it doesn't seem like that. And that would be very, very bad for this economy. So I think whatever capacity the NNPC has, let them make it available. I saw some reports of their schedule of what they can make available to Dangote refinery. They may not be able to provide everything that the refinery needs, but whatever they can provide, let them provide. And let them provide in very, concessionary terms. Because as much as possible, we need to ease the pains of Nigerians. The cost of that has to be borne by the government. Because we are talking about social considerations, social content of policy all over the world. Anything that has social implications are borne by the government. That is what it should be. Because I listened to a statement saying that Dangote is free to sell to any marketer and all of that. I mean, how can that be? The NNPC is subsidizing, even at this current price. They are subsidizing. So how do you now expect a private sector to go into the market where subsidy is being provided by a major supplier? I mean, that is not fair. So whatever we need to do to support domestic production, to support domestic refineries, not only Dangote, so that we don't narrow it down to Dangote. All the domestic refineries, we need to give them all the necessary support. Because there's a whole lot of benefits, macroeconomic benefits, energy security benefits, job creation benefits, backward integration. There are so much benefits that we can derive from this. So we need to compare the relevant institutions to please, in the name of God, and to ensure the survival of this economy. They should support domestic production across sectors. And they should do so transparently, and they must show that commitment. Because I'm worried about the trend. Now, it seems that importation of fuel is still continuing. Dangote has told us that they have the PMS. Why must we be importing at this time? I cannot understand.
So, Dr. Yusuf, looking at the bigger picture now, government has to continue paying subsidy. It is necessary to cushion, the impact of the reforms. And we're also looking at debt burden, debt servicing, which obviously the government will have to continue doing. So I'm just wondering, isn't it just like a circle? Where goeth the gains, or where cometh the gains of the reforms that's so much applauded?
No, one of the biggest windows out of this crisis is to localize oil and gas transactions, particularly petroleum product transactions. About 35% or so of our foreign exchange earnings is being consumed by this importation of petroleum products. And we cannot have a better opportunity than what we have now. That should be the starting point. If you take away that pressure of 35% away from our foreign reserves or foreign exchange market, it will have a significant impact on the macroeconomic environment. It will have a significant impact on exchange rates. Because at the heart of all the problems we are facing in this country today is the exchange rate depreciation. That is at the heart of everything. So every opportunity we have to redress the foreign exchange situation, we should take advantage of it. And one of the best strategies is to promote import substitution. Wherever we have the opportunity to substitute what we are importing with domestic production, we should jump at it. And we should do so very quickly, because that is the way to go. So in order for us to be able to reap the benefits of the reforms, you must support domestic production across all sectors. And that is the way. We cannot have opportunity for domestic production, and yet government agencies are still importing products. How do you explain that? How do you justify that? It's not defensible. So I come back to the issue of localization of those transactions. That is the way this economy can benefit, and that is the way we can move forward.
So I wonder if you have heard, perhaps, Dangote says they are ready, production has started of petrol, but they are awaiting NNPC, and we had known that there's the arrangement where NNPC is the loan off-taker. I wonder why the delay. I wonder if you have heard anything. I know you're neither with Dangote nor with NNPC, but just being in the sector and having conversations, if you have heard anything that's causing the delay.
Well, I haven't heard anything, because I'm neither close to Dangote or close to the government people. But what I do know, as somebody who is observing the economy, is that the NNPC doesn't seem to be excited by this domestic production or domestic refining of petroleum products. And that is very, very unfair. I may be wrong, but that is what I can see, both from their pronouncements and from their body language. And I think from the political side, we need to weigh in on that. We need to change that mindset. that the way to turn around this economy is to support domestic production. That is the only way out. To promote backward integration, to conserve foreign exchange, to create more jobs. That is the way out. And we are almost there. I don't know why people are now backtracking and trying to almost even sabotage a very big initiative, a very big transition. Because for me, we are already at an inflection point. We are about to turn the corner. So I don't know why all this dragging of feet and all of that. Perhaps it could be issues of self-interest. Because this cannot be in the interest of the Nigerian economy.
Or perhaps, Dr. Yusuf, I know you heard that Dangote informed us that a Federal Executive Council is supposed to set the price and they were working on that. Perhaps that's what NNPC is waiting for. Perhaps.
Well, I don't know, but what I do know from the announcement from Dangote is that they were ready, they have the products ready, and suddenly we saw that supply has improved. Where did the supply come from? Apparently, they have also gone to import again. Why should that be? I think something is not adding up. Something is not adding up, and I think we need to fix this in the interest of the economy and in the interest of the Nigerian people. Even if you want to reduce subsidy, it is easier to reduce subsidy when you are producing locally. You can monitor the transactions. The integrity of the process can easily be monitored. And now that the government has offered to sell the crude in Naira, the landing costs should be much lower. So there's a whole lot of advantage for us to latch on to stabilize this economy. So I think maybe higher authorities need to weigh in on this. That should be my take. Because the way it is, I'm not sure we can leave this very big issue only to the NNPC. I don't think so. The political leaders need to weigh in on this so that we can straighten things out.
All right, Dr. Yusuf, thank you so much for your views and perception this morning. Dr. Muda Yusuf is the Chief Executive Officer of CPPE. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll see how the market fared. Summary of the market for last week. Just stay with us. Welcome back. Still watching Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. Let's look at how the market fared at the close of trade last week before we start off this week. Unfortunately, it was a negative trade. So even though I think there were just about 2 negative trades, but it was so heavy that it shaved off the profit I would have had last week. The only good thing is we retained the 96,000 level for the all-share index, but the market was down 0.15%. And equities cap still around 55 trillion naira. When we look at the sectors, most of the sectors were in the red yesterday. Profit taking on the Fugas drove that down. O&O, we know, did try a whole lot, but there was also profit taking and it recovered just after 2 sessions. So we see oil and gas there being the lone gainer at the close of last week's trade. It was up 1.52%. O&O and Japol Gold, they contributed largely to the top gainers last week. We see industrial and gas, Berger Paints and eTransact. They're the top losers. RC Briscoe, FTN, Cocoa. It's good when you see movement around cocoa, or the palm stocks. It means that the consumer goods, and we're talking about real sector maturity or development or manufacturing in the country. So that's when there's movement there. It shows investors, I think, along that line. Top trades last week, Accessco, O&O, and Zenith Bank. They were the top trades at the close of trade. Look at all the markets. The smaller NASD market, unlisted market, was also in the positive, unlike what you had in the bigger market right there. So you see it was up 13.71% up. Market cap around 2.9 trillion naira at the close of trade. There you have it, 2.97 trillion naira for the market cap. I mean, quietly moving. That's what we see with the unlisted market. So while all attention is on the fixed income and the NGX and all the big stocks right there, we see some investors are quietly making some moves in the NES. The activity charts there was mixed at the close of trade. Top advancers for the unlisted market, Aradel Holdings, Joe Fleets, and CSCS, government itself. Top decliners, Econ Petroleum, IGI, and Afriland Prop is what we saw. And then the top trader was Joe Fleets at the close of trade. So there you have it, the numbers for last week's market. We'll have intraday numbers for you at 1 p.m. as usual. I'll be here with Aniti Edet, so you don't want to miss it. We'll take you around the world of business in 55 minutes, give you all the relevant information that you need to know. I'm John Mekwa, leaving you now in the hands of the Sunrise Daily team.
Welcome back. Yes, as you've seen there, we've got Professor Pius Dijolanrewaju here with us. He is the President and Chairman of Council of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. Good morning, and thank you for coming on today.
It's a pleasure being on your program this morning.
Yes. Now, you'll be having your conference, the 17th one, coming up beginning today. And I see that you're talking about economic growth and things like that, which is what we need at this point in time, given the challenges that the country seems to be grappling with. So, I know you must have heard several times in terms of the talks, the conferences, people want to see action as well. So give us a broad perspective for this particular session, this conference. What do we expect, and how is it going to impact us as a country?
Yes, the 17th CIBN Banking Conference is a unique one, and it is on record that most of our program has been very, very unique. This conference, is the largest, banking and finance conference in Africa. And it's not only limited there. In most cases, most of the communique and the issues that were raised, we followed it up and make sure that at all times, the implementations, to us is very, very key, whatever we are doing. If you cast a retrospective glance, for example, of the last year's conference, we raised some fundamental issues that we believe that can help build a sustainable growth within the economy. Issues like the issue of recapitalization. And lo and behold, this year, you find out that it's now on board. And we raised the issue of the need for us to be more ethical within the system, which is also very, very unique to us. We did all this. And this year now, we are now saying that we want to accelerate, the rate of economic growth, the state of play, and the way forward. You will bear with me that there has been some challenges in recent times, but these challenges are not unsurmountable. We run an institute that we believe that we have enough capable hands and professionals who can make a change in some of the things we are doing here. And if you look at some of the sub-team, it's also very important that one of the issues that is very critical within the system is the issue of Jakpa and Jakpada, which we have introduced. Last year, we came with an idea that we cannot just we can't prevent somebody from traveling. The best you can do is replicate, those. And we came up with an idea, and we were able to gather some money, and we are building a special banking academy. So that as those people are going, it will be win-win situation. By the time they're over there, they make money, and because of affinity to our roots in Africa, so money will come in by way of diaspora. I mean,
I've been listening to, I've been reading up on news, and a few of the things that the CIBN have been doing. The CIBN had this human capital retention fund. You've gotten 300 million from banks on that. And then, of course, you mentioned it just now, skill exportation and brain gain. In the light of our economic challenges right now, how does the CIB intend to help in this situation, especially when it comes to human capital development?
Yes, like I did mention, what we have done is that we have acquired a place in Abeokuta, which we will start development is we soon commence there, where we believe that it's not just about talking, it's about putting into reality, into action, some of those ideas, some of those things we have talked about. And we will intend to make sure that school, already the trustee had already set up the trustee. And the trustee will make sure that we have the state-of-the-art facilities there. And beyond that, we are not even limited to that, because that seems to be a location in the state. When you look at our antecedent and pedigree about educational banking development, for the past 2-3 years, we have been building what we call legacy projects in most of the, in all the 6 geopolitical zones, and some additional, as we are talking, we have 9 different legacy projects with the state-of-art theater in all these tertiary institutions. Anytime we are running the program, like this program that is coming, this conference now, all those centers are linked with us digitally. and they will be seeing exactly what we are doing. And we believe that if you are able to catch them very young and you expose them like that, and they're in tune with the reality of the time, then you are building for the future. And our future is the future of the industry is very critical to us.
Could you shed a little more light on this? I mean, what is it that the banking sector has done? Because when a lot of those young folks left for greener pastures, the sector felt the pinch. Yeah. So what has been done to ensure that probably if that were to happen again, you have the next set of people who are going to fill this void or the space such that they won't feel that sector or that pinch or that hole like they did the last time?
Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, I said there is the banking academy that is being put in place, jointly be financed by all the financial institutions. In fact, contribution had already been made to that effect. Then again, you need to engage the youth, you understand? We have been doing that. We have a agency program now, apart from this conference. We have a agency special program slated for October, where we educate and where we expose them and things they can do. You know, there's always a misconception that when you are in the bank, you can only work in the banks alone. But with the emergence of fintech and some other subsidiary institutions that are springing up within the ecosystem, we believe they be in a position. And again, we have come to realize that in most cases, some of us will be saying government is not doing this, government is not doing that. We are going beyond that. And we are saying that bankers can work in the Ministry of Budget and Planning. Bankers can work in CBN. Bankers can work in all these institutions. And we are reaching out to them. And it will surprise you that we are getting positive results from them.
I'm pretty interested in that Gen Z program.
Yes.
You know, not so you repeat what you just said. I want to be able to go into the intricacies of it. Where are you getting the Gen Zs from? Are you going to schools? You know, how is the conversation happening?
As of today, as we are talking, like I said, we knew that something like this will happen in the future, and we're already preparing for the future. And like John Scholar says, he said the future belongs to those people who can see opportunity before they manifest. What we did some years ago when I was the chairman of the capacity building is for us to go to the secondary school. As we are talking about, we are linked with about 72 institutions, tertiary institutions within the country. So the catchment is already there. When we are doing a program, this Gen Z program, all those people will be linked. Then again, like I did mention, we had already, as of today, built 7 state-of-the-art theater in 9 tertiary institutions across the geopolitical zone of this country. Those people will be linked. Then again, we have an understanding with Lagos state government, because the last one was in Lagos, and we may replicate in other states, but this year again is going to be in Lagos. We reached out to the state government. We reached out to the NYC, where all the NYC in Lagos they were mobilized for that program. In fact, we recorded over 8,700 student participants last year. And I can tell you this year is going to be double that figure.
Is it free?
It's free. It's free. The irony of it is that it's free. Yes, we believe it's part of our corporate social responsibility.
What kind of training are these?
The training is that we bring people who have achieved in that industry. We also bring people from diverse backgrounds, to come and talk to them, to motivate them. And in fact, that last year we discovered a lady that was more or less, that all of us keep on celebrating now. It's already working with some of the subcommittees of the institute. So we want to discover them, we want them to interact, we want them to know exactly what is going on, not only within their narrow environment, but within the global scene.
So what do you look out for? Because, if people are coming for that training, of course, they want to get a job afterwards. Yeah. Nobody wants to finish training and go back home. If I were there, I would like to see what's my next step. So what is it that you'll be looking for anyone who wants to have a chance to probably get into the banking and finance sector?
Like I said, this is a program that is being organized by an umbrella institution within the banking system. And when that system is being put in place, all banks, MDs are part of us. All HR of all the academies are part of us. And because we are in a position to accredit them, we indeed accredited them, some of them, all of them will be there. So that's where they source those people that we feed into their various academy, many of them. And we do a kind of, we make sure that we have, a comprehensive list of those who participate in that program and what are their career paths, what can they do. Then we bring about people who within their school, within their area, who has achieved feat of securing good job and making their mark within the industry. So these are the things that we believe will go a long way in motivating them. We want to.
I mean, if I studied any course,
yes,
anybody can go there, whichever course you did.
You will reorientate
as long as you have the passion.
Yes, the passion is the most important thing. But preference will be given to those people who have the knowledge. But experience has taught us. Experience has taught us that even people with diverse background do excel, because it's all about saying, I want to make a mark. And we will bring people that are MDs of banks today that were engineers. You understand? And they are doing quite well. So, yes.
Let's go to the banking sector itself.
Yes.
Because the last conference you had, one of the things that you talked about was ethics.
Yes.
In the banking sector. And banks have come under a lot of criticism recently. You know, many people believe in that, well, banks are not doing actual banking. Many people are just doing forex business here and calling it banking. And then, of course, the unbanked in Nigeria and all of these issues, especially when it comes to ethics and the ability to provide the services that they charge customers for. How is the CIBN, looking into that? I mean, I know you clamored for it in the last conference. What has happened since then?
A lot has happened. And again, when you look, I came in on the 17th of May, 17th of May 2024. And I have an agenda, I call it the legacy agenda. The E in that agenda, because the L talks about leading an innovative banking system. And the E, if I stop at that, is ethics, professionalism, and integrity. We want to entrench it. We want to entrench ethics. There is ethical. One thing we must realize about banking system is that the banking is also part of a main system. It's a microcosm or the macrocosm. You understand? So banks, the people we are going to source, they are Nigerians. The people who are going to work there are Nigerians. The people, we are part of the system. And we all know that the system, the way it is now, there is corruption. Unless we don't want to call it spade a spade. And in banking, we realize this. When you are recruiting somebody, it's not easily possible for you to say this one is going to thief. You understand? We bring them in, and what we have done over the years is to introduce ethical training. Because some of them will tell you that my organ said I should do this, and that's why I did it. They without any justification. When there are ethical dilemmas, how do they solve it? So we created, through the effort of the CBN, we came up with an area to go with ethics certification, which is compulsory for everybody in the bank on a yearly basis. You have to go for that ethics training. Beyond that, during my tenure, in my agenda, we want to entrench it, and I believe that the greatest way to do that is to make sure that you yourself, you are an embodiment of ethics. When you are, you'll be able to speak out. When you sound professionally, you will also be able to talk about skill. When you have integrity, then you can, propagate integrity. And I have made up my mind that for our team, that we call it legacy team, we are determined, and that we are going to be an epitome, of integrity within the industry. And that is exactly the hallmark of CIBN.
How do you work against people recruiting some people based on favoritism, for instance?
Yes, maybe it's an opportunity for me to just tell you the whole what legacy is all about. I told you that the L is leading, an innovative financial system. E, entrenching ethics and this thing. Then the G there is about gender. You understand? Generational and geographical diversity. And we are intentional. What I did is that charity will begin at home. In our institute today, if you go there, even in the composition of my committee, all the geopolitical stones were represented for the very first time. And we make sure that, also that women are taking commanding hearts. When some of those entered into this only some years ago, you can easily count the number of women that are executive in banks. But today, more than 12 of them are chief executive. The last two, when you look at Guaranteed Trust and everything, and Senate Bank, you know that they're women. So we are being conscious about it. Also, we are also looking at the geographical diversity. It's very, very key, because there is no settle of this nation that you don't have brain. People are very talented and expert. So there must be conscious effort. As an institute, we are saying we want to make a conscious effort to redress what an anomaly that has been in the system and set a pace. And we have been doing that on several occasions. If you look at our election, it's the second to none in this country. And during my presentation, I made it abundantly clear that Nigeria should learn from CIBN. Yes, and that's the truth.
So I want to be able to, because I'm seeing a few questions that people have, and I want to be able to on YouTube, on the YouTube. So keep sending. It's good that you do. It helps us out. People want to know if this, because I remember the direct sales agent situation. Has that been scrapped from the banking sector now?
The
direct sales agents, temporary staff in the banking sector. Has this been scrapped? Because that was the call for it to end.
Yeah.
It has been scrapped.
I won't say totally it has been scrapped, because you find out that you look at the ecosystem today, things like driving and some other auxiliary services are still being contracted out. You understand? But call any like I said, when you put somebody who has little or no experience, you pay the price. You understand? Even some of this fraud, I was fortunate to be the chairman of the tribunal. The tribunal, the Cyber Tribunal, has a coordinate jurisdiction, like a high court. I realized some years ago when I was that chairman, trying to try some people, many of them escaped on the ground that they were not members. You understand? And I made a representation. I made a representation to the body of past CEO of banks and also to CBN. And CBN gave a directive that henceforth everybody working in the industry must be a staff of that something. And I believe with that, gradually we build their skills and everything to be able to solve that problem.
That actually keyed into what was coming next. Yeah. Because the fraud situation.
Too many questions.
Hacking of bank accounts. Yes. And these things, they've become so popular. It's unbelievable how crazy it has become. Is there anything the CIBN can do or is doing in this regard? Because the reason why that DSA question, direct sales agents question, came was because it was found out that many people who engage in these activities are from the temporary staff pool. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what's happened since then. What kind of measures is the CIBN looking at to reduce the levels of bank hacking, hacking that we're facing in this country?
The truth of the matter is it takes two to tango. I want to be honest with you. What you have come to realize is that most of these things are as a result of the problem being created by the customers and people. A lot of people today, we have to give their passwords to their maid, to their driver, to this to go and make a withdrawal. The moment you leave that gap, you have created problem within the system. Because these are things that is scientific. Press 1, 2, 3. You get access to the something, and the person press it, and he has the number. So you find out that one of the things we have been doing is advocacy. Advocacy, and we have been doing that consistently. Advocating, telling the customer that do not trust anybody with your account. You understand? Anybody that we have, because when they have access to you, they can take any money from you. Then over and above that, then we are aware that some people, because of lack of skill, the Bible even tells us that my people perish for lack of knowledge. We believe that the knowledge is increasing. We have put a certification in place to be able to address this so that bankers can come and enhance their knowledge, because the knowledge you had some years ago is no longer relevant. What others is that is not heresy today. So these are some of the things we have put in place. And moreover, we have been warning our corporate members that, look here, this issue of cybercrime is an international problem. It's not limited to Nigeria, But we are saying that you effort the most, rather than working in silos, let them work together to be able to see how they can, put in place a very robust platform that will checkmate the activity. But all over the globe, I can tell you without missing my word that there is nowhere where these infractions are not taking place. So our decision is that we are making effort in the right direction to ameliorate it and make sure that, and also to sensitize, our customer and the public that there are some rules that must be obeyed. When you disobey those rules, then there is always...
interesting point you make there, Prof, on that particular. But I got one more on that fraud matter.
That fraud matter.
Yeah, it's
a very dicey one.
Serious one. and that's because, Prof, in addition to what you mentioned, which, yes, people need to be cautious. Don't give out your details, your password, just anyhow, because if you do, you're opening yourself up. But there's another one that seems to happen, which we've seen a lot of complaints. For instance, if, assuming my first name and last name, so what they do, they can take my first name, for instance, the last 4 letters in my first name, L-A-I-N. So they do L-I-N. first name, and then surname remains the same. So if I were in a particular bank, they open an account in that same bank with that name. So if you don't know my name properly, you will think that's me. So they take it, start sending to people, and start saying, oh, we're involved in an accident, we need it. So, and then when you write to those banks, response time is too slow.
Absolutely.
For months, and then they are making money. You can't stop the account. You can't. So what do you do about that kind of scenario?
The effort is being put in place. I'm aware of this kind of challenges you're talking about. I've heard about it. And we believe that, like I said, we are running a system whereby as to solve one problem, those people, the hackers, move to the next level. So you have to be moving with them to checkmate their activities and everything. But nevertheless, we are also
this
working.
One looks like they work with the banker.
Yes. No. What the point I'm trying to make is that if you look at leading cases in law of banking, which I'm quite familiar with, you will realize that there is what we call duty of secrecy. When somebody opens an account, it's very difficult for you to divulge it to a third party unless there are exceptions. The exceptions are maybe when they ask you to divulge that information, or maybe it's the interest of the government or something like that. So we are between the bussy and the devil. You understand? So we need to be careful, and we are working on something on our own because, like I said, we are quite conversant with what is going on in our environment. We are working on a system to link with the regulator and see when we get such a thing, maybe an alarm to raise an alarm to stop that account temporarily. Yeah. But the way it is now, when you look at the legal framework we have, you cannot just stop somebody's account, especially when everything there seems to be okay. Otherwise, you'll be running foul of the law.
Prof, I think we'll make our time to talk about this one later because there's a lot of things that I want to talk about on that particular one because, it's what concerns that they focus on. But the economic growth.
Yes.
This is a very important part. Yes. So talk to us about this economic growth component of your conference. So
very, very
what are you going to address about that?
We have 4 major key areas we want to address as far as that is concerned that are very, very important to us. We want, like I said, the issue of Japa and Japada. We want to make people to have making right choices. You understand? But many people who just jump into this Japa something, they don't know exactly what it entails. We need to sensitize them. We need to do this. It's part of the sub-team of this conference. 2, also the issue of diversifying foreign exchange sources of earning. The sources of our earning, foreign exchange. It used to be what we are running now is like a monocultural economy, depending on oil and everything. And we have been crying for years. We want to exploit the possibility, using the instrumentality of this discourse, to discuss around other alternatives that can help the system and bring in foreign exchange. Then thirdly, we are looking at unlocking new possibilities, especially in the area of AI and innovation, so that we believe that people globally are going to the area of technology and everything. Let us also see how we can leverage on that. And currently, we are not doing badly, even within the banking system, even within the technology environment. But we want to enhance it and discuss and bring experts, from both the academia, the professionals within Nigeria and outside Nigeria to talk about this. And more importantly, we want to look at, apart from repositioning those AI something, we want to look at repositioning the Nigerian financial system so that we can contribute meaningfully to the socio-economic development of the country. These are some of the sub-teams, and we believe that if we are able to get these 4 key areas right, the economy it may not be able to reach the destination immediately. At least we will be making appreciable progress, because what we need is sustainable progress. And I believe that at the end of this conference, and taking the pedigree and the antecedent of CIBN, when this conference is concluded, you can be sure that the communique will be in place. And moreover, when you look at the caliber of people that are coming within Africa and Nigeria, the president of Congo is already, I was being whispered to that is already at the airport. The vice president of Liberia, and you know that Nigeria, as of today, CIBN is the one regulating banking system in about 7 countries in Africa. So all of them are coming. The president has also volunteered to be around. If it's not geographically, somebody top-ranking officer will be there. The VP is coming because VP is our own.
So that's an opportunity.
It's an opportunity.
Is the CBN going to say, look, governments, Nigerians don't fit this policy, some of these policies may need to be tweaked here, there, and that kind of scenario?
The experts that are coming, like I said, they are
talk
not
about our policies.
The experts that are coming will talk dispassionately.
Oh, nice.
So what you need to do is to participate in that program. Come for that program.
Yeah, I'd like to.
And see exactly. They are experts, and we are not just talking. We are not just want to be condemning. You know, the CIBN, we believe that let us lay the cards clearly on the table.
I mean,
and let
experts. At economic growth, you know, what I don't want us not to talk about this. There's the issue of indiscriminate charges, especially when it comes to business owners. You know, we're looking at economic growth. So many people believe that these charges are some sort of bottleneck that stops them from the growth and development that they need for their businesses. That's something that's going to be.
You mean from the perspective of banks?
Yes, from the perspective of banks.
That may not be the truth. Do you know that, like I said something, one of the things that is not known by most people is that we believe that the banking system is operating in isolation. We are within the system. Those instruments that the bank use today, many of us are thinking about the cost. I interact with, you know, some of these high-ranking officers, and I know the challenges they're facing. In even importing cars, do you know the cost of cars 5 years ago? I mean, even 2 years ago, and the cost now. Things are increasing. You understand? What we are praying is that if we are able to build a very robust economy, because our greatest problem is in two ways, by my own understanding and knowledge of as a finance lawyer, is that we have a problem of corruption. Let all the leakages, let it be blocked. Two, let people round peg in the round hole. Let people who have the knowledge occupy the commanding height of our system. And I believe if we are able to do that, things will pick up. We weren't like this at the time, but banks, we are very optimistic that the future is bright.
All right, there's so many areas to touch, but because, I mean, you've spoken about some very interesting things that will happen at that conference, which I think lots of people look forward to participating and benefiting from. So we had to wish everyone all the best on that one. But maybe subsequently, we can look at, I mean, you also spoke about the CSR.
Yes.
For companies. They need a lot of information, corporate governance, how do they attract finance to their businesses. But these are areas that I'm sure if people come to that conference, they will benefit. So we have to thank you and wish you all the best as you hold that. How many days will this conference be?
It's just 10th and 11th.
Oh, where's it holding?
It's holding at, of course, by our standards, you know, it's going to be Transcorp. Okay. You know, Congress.
So you know the standard.
Yes.
Yes. Professor Pius Adeji Olarenwaju is the president and chairman of Council, Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. So Gen Z, they've got a lot for you. So don't miss out on that one. I wouldn't if I were you.
Starting this evening.
Oh, okay, nice. So we've got this message before we go. It's from Professor Enahena, who says this unbundling of oil and gas sector will allow proficient entrepreneurs and corporations acquire properly and manage, invest, acquire properly or property? Okay. It says this will introduce competitiveness, and by so doing, the market forces and the inherent proficiency of the acquirees will unshackle and reposition petroleum sector. Thank you, Prof. So that is it today as well. We thank you all for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain, so goodbye.
And for the rest of you who sent your message, we did see them. We'll see if we can take them some other time. Have a great week ahead. I'm Kayla Magwa.
And if you can't wait until another time, just jump on X. We're right there for you. I'm Aya Makide. Have a beautiful day.